Are you connecting all the dots on the journey to your inner wisdom? Are you looking for a fresh perspective on the messages you've been asking for?
So who doesn't want to be happier, healthier, wealthier, and wiser, and be able to make life's choices with confidence because they finally see the signs? We know you do.
I'm Angela Coulter.
And I'm Sarah Sieg Avignoni.
We're two conscious journeyers dedicated to turning over those rocks and helping you on your personal intuitive sleuthing mission of evolution in our multi-dimensional hologram.
And that includes Earth too.
Yes, it does. Welcome to Solving Me, our conscious puzzle-solving podcast, where we look at the natural relation between your life experiences and their meaning in the bigger picture, from the most mundane to the most overwhelming.
So what do we mean by all this? Well, have you ever thought that getting a flat tire and twisting your ankle could be related? And maybe a message about what's preventing you from getting that awesome, high-paying job you would love. Believe it or not, it's all connected.
Want to know more? Come on and let's get sleuthing. See what comes up in this episode, because it might just be about you. Welcome to episode 13. Today we're talking about what is on many people's minds this time of year, which is spring cleaning and clearing the clutter.
Right? Yeah, it seems to be, I don't know whether it's an age thing or whether it is seasonal or whether it's just the energies of today that everybody's looking at, in the closets and the cracks and the crevices and what doesn't serve me anymore, and what am I picking up and carrying with me from place to place?
Hoarding. What am I hoarding? Right.
Right. Yep.
And so, yeah, when we get into the mood, so spring happens, we open the windows, we want to clear everything out because we feel like we're suddenly suffocated in by all the stuff that has piled up over the winter, over the hibernation.
Yeah, accumulated in our hibernation.
Mm-hmm. And then some, not just over the hibernation, but it's almost
Right.
like it seems to exponentially grow during that.
Well, and as the days get longer, there's more periods where you're home, where it's light and you're able to see more of, oh, this is how I've been living this winter.
Right. So what is the message that, what is the message on that? Let me tell you, it's funny. Somebody I know got married to someone not too long ago, but they had been together for, I think, 10 years before they got married. And the entire time, actually, they didn't even live in the same house together, I think, until about 6 months after they got married. They have both had their own houses and stuff because it's older.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And part of the reason was she had said to him, I'm not going to live with you until you clean this out. This is crazy.
Right.
And she would tell me, she goes, I think he's like, by definition, a hoarder.
Right.
And so she told me she had hired somebody to come in and help start cleaning it out. And I remember the first day that they did it, she said they spent an entire day and they cleaned out the dining room.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I have to admit, there were times when I would put on that television show to give me some perspective, not necessarily from a perspective of how good or how bad or whatever, just some perspective of this is where it can take you. I know that I had my parents move in with me, and we had their 3,000 square foot home pretty much brought and put in mine or in storage. And that was in 2010 or 11. And they're both gone. And I'm still fighting that clutter, whether it's in my attic, which, we had to remove all the contents of our attic to get rid of the insulation and put in spray foam insulation, which is awesome. But the quantity and the looking at what I had at one time deemed valuable enough to haul it up the steps of the attic and find a place for it. It's like, what was I thinking?
Yes, I remember you telling me about that.
What value did this hold for me? And I think that that's what we use this spring cleaning for, is to look at the messages that we've been saving up for ourselves. How about
Mhm.
that? Because there's so many, and there's
Well,
so many things like, I just can't deal with this right now, so I'm going to put it over here.
right. What are you not letting go of? That's the message. What are you letting pile up because you won't let go of something? The whole
Or
thing,
I can't face right now.
exactly. And so in that case with my friend and her husband now, I remember her telling me he was cranky, like after they did that, the dining room cleanse,
Mm-hmm.
that they had to stop because he became like a raging bear. She said he was just, it was crazy. So, and why is that? Because it's a physical representation of stuff that you've been just, and we identify, we not only do we accumulate stuff, but when we hoard like that, or when it starts to look like that clutter in our reality, then we are not, or we're letting one thing pile up on top of another, on top of another, on top of another.
Right.
And
Yes.
then we like attach to it with our identity, and then we can't let go of it, or we won't let go of it, because then we feel like we're losing ourselves by letting go of it.
Well, and I know for myself, there are times when you have something like, for instance, on the kitchen counter, and you get to the point where you've accommodated it being there, and you almost just don't see it anymore.
Yes. You become blind to it.
And I know there are times when I've been out of town, whether it's for a long weekend or extended, 10 days gone, 2 weeks gone, and I come back and it's like, whoa, where did all this stuff come from?
Right.
It's like, I swear this wasn't here when I left.
Especially
And
if you stay in like a Airbnb house that's like all open and like uncluttered, and then you come home and you're like, oh, I feel suffocated.
exactly. And I think that it's that, they talk about nasal fatigue when you stop smelling. I think this is visual fatigue, where you just stop seeing it because you just accept that it's there, and you've accommodated losing that space. And the same goes for your energy. It's like you accommodate having to manage. I have to move this over here to get to this, to move this, to grab this, to be able to do this. When if all this wasn't here, I could just do it.
The other side of that too, another part of that has to do with, many will say, like, I don't know how hoarders do it. I don't know how they can live in it. I had a friend who was a home health care nurse, and she would go in on some of her cases, and she told me that there were some patients that were, especially elderly ones, that were real, like literally hoarders. She said they could be on the show,
Right.
where there was like literally a lot, like piles of stuff, and a single like
Right.
pathway through
Mm-hmm.
into another room.
Right.
And she said, well, like, I think, wow, how do you not feel suffocated? And I was like, well, sometimes it makes them feel safe, because it
It's
makes them
comforting.
feel protected and comforted and, supported, right? Because it's all the stuff that's been in your reality and you're holding on to it. It's just that it does weigh us down, whether it's, physically in weight, or if it's around us in, clutter. Then it shows us also sometimes the message for that can be, what's cluttering up your mind, what's cluttering
Oh,
up your consciousness, that that you're not seeing what's right in front of your face.
exactly. The thought required to remember where things are, and to remember what this was for, or why I have this. I mean, it's incredible the amount of mental and to some degree physical energy that just takes right off the table when you get up in the morning, because it's like you pick everything right back up where you left it. So
Mm-hmm.
and if your bedroom is that cluttered, then you don't get the restful sleep, because you're you're sleeping in it or
Exactly.
trying to.
Exactly. And I for one, I cannot when I start feeling cluttered in my bedroom, I get a little nuts. I get claustrophobic, and I say to my husband, because he does the laundry in the house typically, and sometimes we just have a very busy weekend, and he'll have like 2 hamperfuls of clean clothes sitting there, and that will make me nuts.
Right.
I'll just go and put it away. And it's not that I don't ever put it away, but like it'll just because we were busy, and or if there's like a pile of stuff sitting over on our foot bench, I just start feeling clustered, claustrophobic. That's the thing for us to look at though, is what's cluttering up your mind, what's cluttering your reality. And usually that means that there's stuff in there that's not necessary to be there. What do we do when we do spring cleaning? There's that person out there who has the book about decluttering your life, or I
Oh,
can't remember what it was called.
oh, wow. What is her name?
Anyway, doesn't matter. But part of one of the things I think that came out of her book was if you haven't put your hands on something for like a year, get rid of it.
Right. Well, and hold things and to see if it brings you joy, and to
Right.
actually touch everything that you own, and judge or decide, is this valuable to be had, or is it more valuable to free the space that it's consuming?
Right. Think about that
Marie
energetic.
Kondo.
Okay.
I knew I'd get it.
But think about what we do with that energetically. Think of how many things, because we don't physically put our hands on it, is in our energy field that we clutter up our energy with. And
Exactly.
that's what all of this around us is a representation of.
Well,
So,
and we can extend it because, okay, so for instance, you have a house that's immaculate. It's very sparsely decorated. It's easy to clean, everything, a spot for everything and everything in its spot. And your car is a pit.
right.
I mean, that's a message that's telling you something.
Yes.
Or your home is like this, but your desk at work is a nightmare, and you can't find anything and you struggle. So each one of those has its own message of, and it's important to see what where the origin of the message is. Like, okay, is it work, or is it how I get to work, or is it my, if you're in your car all day, that is your office.
Yes. Yeah. And I know people like that too, where their house is immaculate and their car is a mess, or vice versa. That's very funny. But so look at your reality, and look at where you feel like there's clutter, right? All of us have clutter in some way, shape, or form. When we gather clutter, we just
Right.
gather. It's that rolling, or it's like the Rolling Stone gathers no moss. But so when we stop someplace and we gather a whole bunch of moss, and when we live in a house for any period of time, or any one place for a period of time, it's so easy to start accumulating stuff.
Oh, especially, and I know my mother always says, well, the bigger the house, the more you'll expand to fit it. That it doesn't
Like, of
matter if you
course.
have it when you move in, you just will naturally fill it. And that is true. I know,
I agree.
my parents moved in with their things shortly after we moved into this bigger house, and what I didn't fill, they filled. And what I struggle with is the the energy of letting go of what they couldn't let go of. And that's been such a huge message for me. um I know I was talking to a friend, and she's put her house up for sale, and she was talking about the things that she hung on to, and I said, I have dishes on the counter in my laundry room that I've heard sat on a relative's lap when she came over from England. And I'm like, what would I ever do with these dishes? I mean, there's
Mhm.
like 3 or 4 of them, but I still have them. I haven't let go of them because there's something in that I feel I ought to hang on to them, or they should mean something, or
Right.
What do you do with stuff like that? Because no, if I don't want them, nobody wants them.
I've gotten to a place where I just let it go. I used to be one, I wasn't very hoarding, but I would hold on to stuff that it just didn't make any sense because it was passed down. Like it was passed down from so and
Exactly.
so. You felt obligated to keep it. I have like cut that cord within myself. And I went through that when we moved 4 years ago now, 5 years ago. Oh, it'll be 5 years already, right? Yeah, 5 years, 4 years. I don't know. Anyway, 4 years. But like we had like 3 to 4 years of notice before all that happened, before, our house was taken by eminent
Yes.
domain or whatever. And it was perfect timing for us because our kids were graduating high school and going to college. So when the first one went away to college, I did the first big broad sweep of getting rid of a whole ton of stuff that I felt like it was ready for me to let it go, right? I didn't want to say to get rid of it, but it was to let it go. It was to say, okay,
Right.
I think, like boxes full of their paintings from when they were little. And I was like, okay, we can save one box of them, one box of stuff like crafts from the kids when they were little. We don't
Yes.
have to save it all. And so like and other things that had just accumulated over the years. So I did the first broad brush when my oldest went away to college, and then I did the second one when the youngest went away to college. And then it was time for us to move. And so that was like the big brush sweep after being in a house for 22 years, and two kids that grew up there. It was a lot of stuff that I felt like was a huge cleansing for us. Huge cleansing for me. And it pushed me to a place of literally saying, do I want to take this to a new place? Do I want to take this forward with me into where I'm going to be next? And if
Yes.
and if I got no, it would go. And it didn't matter how long it had been around. It didn't matter who I inherited it from. The reality was, am I ever going to use this? If I got no, then then I got rid of it. It went to Goodwill. It went to Habitat for Humanity. It went to a lot of different places, or it went to the dump.
Went to the landfill. Exactly. Well, and one thing that I've in my clearing of clutter and in my cleaning out and downsizing personally, the thing that I've really had to be really aware of is not to fill the space up again.
We
Is
want
once
to do
you clear that space, then be very conscientious of what you allow back in.
and we want to do that energetically too,
Yes.
all the time, all the time. So be aware, because if you're edging toward that, say you're doing a whole bunch of self work and you feel like you've cleared out all this stuff, well, then all of a sudden you might be seeing this show up in your reality as clutter or whatever of, oh, it's starting to edge its way back in. There's other things that are coming in. Well, we have permission to have as much space as we want and give ourselves as much space as we want.
Exactly.
And it's, other messages is, what are you weighed down by? What are you dragging forward with you? Like that is not necessarily useful.
And what opportunities are you missing because you feel encumbered by everything that you're pulling along with you? Because you could be so much, and what is it, leaner, meaner, so much more efficient without all this that you're pulling forward with you. So what opportunities are passing you by because you can't respond that quickly?
Well, and you're also distracted because you're spending so much energy having to manage all of that you can't look at what might be right in front of your face.
Yes.
So yeah, spring cleaning, do that physically and energetically, because you know what? That's why we sometimes get cranky, exhausted when we do like a spring cleaning, because it's like, well, I actually let go of a lot of this stuff, including things like, windows, which that's a topic for a different day. But like one time we just did a massive cleaning on our windows at our old house. And I remember everybody got cranky for a couple of days. And it's like, what am I clearing up to see that I wasn't letting myself look
Exactly.
at before,
I know
So
my
those,
daughter. I know my
yeah,
daughter went through a phase where she had heard something called doom boxes, DOOM, and it stood for didn't organize, only moved. And it's those boxes where you just piled stuff in and took it with you. And boy, she was cranky going through those, but the relief she felt, she would never have guessed that that much of her energy was being held in those boxes.
Right. Because we don't make that connection typically.
Right.
So do a spring cleaning outside and inside and look at what you can let go of. What doesn't serve you anymore? That's what you're pointing to within yourself. And, let us know. Give us some more stories. We're happy to hear them.
And be kind with yourself while you do it. No judgment.
Not just kind, but thankful, with gratitude for all the experiences you've had that you felt were so valuable that you wanted to hold on to them like you have.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So thanks a lot. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to us on Solving Me. If you found this podcast helpful, make sure to subscribe so you get notice every time we post a new episode.
And for a short time, we have a special bonus for you. Go to solvingme.net to download your free ebook, which outlines the next level of conscious solutions for your inner investigation.
Be sure to help us spread the word. Share us with others you know who want to solve the puzzles of their everyday life through the filter of expanded consciousness and have fun doing it.
One more thing. Do you have some puzzling life circumstances where you feel blocked and you'd like our take on what's going on? Send us your conscious puzzle at connect@solvingme.net and maybe you'll be the topic of a future episode.
Until next time, happy sleuthing.